Hello, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on Sports Illustrated and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. Thank you for joining me tonight. We are going to get into the fact that the Raiders are garnering plenty of attention around the National Football League as this draft approaches. Now, word is beginning to circulate because of pro days, interviews, and some other issues that the Cowboys are definitely looking quarterback. Now, with that said, there are a lot of people, and you can go back and look at my very first mock draft. I had the Raiders trading down from 6 to 12 with the Cowboys. I can tell you this was something of why I did it in that last mock, why I did it in my first mock draft. I had heard the same thing. So that creates a lot of interest at 6. A lot of things could happen. If Shadur and Cam are gone, and there are teams that are hell bent on getting a quarterback, they could be a lot of people that would want to move up because there's a lot of bad drafting teams. I'm just telling you. Then if the Raiders, if they trade with the Cowboys and the Cowboys go to 6, I totally believe that there is a great opportunity, unless somebody trades above the Raiders, that Gene T falls to 12 and the Raiders would nab him at 12. Or have Omari and Hampton, which there are teams that have him higher on their board. So either way, it would set the Raiders up. And I've been telling you for quite some time, I believe, based on how I think the draft's going to go, that they would ideally prefer to trade down. We're going to see. We're going to find out, but it's certainly going to be a very, very fascinating draft because the Raiders are garnering a lot of attention. When you look at the addition of Geno Smith, and they're working on a new deal for him, at the time of this taping, it's not been released, but I expect it anytime, which means it could come tonight, it could come in a week, but it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. That's coming. And so when you look at this Raider team, I think Mostert is a first rounder. I mean, is a RB1 anymore? No, but a change of environment could fix that. I said that yesterday. I think the Raiders would prefer to trade down at 6 if certain guys are not there, but it doesn't mean I don't think Gene T's great. I just certainly think that they want to get the most out of this draft that they can, and they want to be able to accumulate picks and players. Now, Raider Nation seems to be in a little bit of a panic, thinking the Raiders have not done a whole lot. And I agree with you at that impression, but I don't think that impression is reality. You lose Spills, which hurts, but a Landon Roberts, man, that is a very nice replacement. A very nice replacement. What has started in Pittsburgh last year, you heard Noah Strackbine, the our on SI team beat reporter say that on yesterday's podcast. They liked him. I told you that even before we had Noah on, that people within the organization told me that. But it was a matter of they had so many middle linebackers and high quality ones. He would have started, but they weren't. They were okay with losing him because they had several people there. So you bring in a Landon Roberts. You've got a Tommy freaking Eichenberg who battled some injuries last year, but this is a guy that has a ton of promise on him. Now, I need to go back because the title of today's podcast is The Raiders Are Piquing a Lot of Interest Around the League. There's a lot of teams that are looking at the Raiders at 6, wondering how's this going to pan out a little bit? How's this going to go a little bit? There's some guys there, no need to get into who, that maybe some other teams are much more interested in than the Raiders are. Maybe the Raiders are interested in them, but not at 6. So there may be a team willing to jump up. The Raiders pick up a couple of first rounders. So let's say that they traded with Dallas and they pick up Dallas's 1 this year And what if they pick up a 2 and an additional 2 for next year? Who knows? The point of the matter is they may even get another team who willing to jump up, depending on how far it is, and pick up a 1, their 1 this year, a 1 next year, and a 2 this year. There's a lot of options here. And the Raiders now are in play because they've been intelligent. They've signed some really good role players and they've signed some good starters. Landon Roberts is a good starter. Mostert is a good role player. Geno, good starter. So there's a lot of opportunity here for the Raiders because they have filled some needs. Now, I want to talk about another thing that has a lot of people interested. Jacoby Myers is a WR1 in this league. I told you last year at training camp, long before it was known publicly about the diva-ness of Devontae Adams, in my opinion, but that he was the best offensive player on the team. And at that time he was. Clearly, I think we would say Brock Bowers is now, but he was at the time. And now I think he's clearly the second best. But you've got a good wide receiver. But they would like to add a big body. They'd like to go get that. And just keep your eyes on old Tet, who had himself a pro day today or yesterday. And we wrote about it today. Okay, so now the Raiders are so versatile on their offensive line, on their offense, because there isn't a blaring need. There's lots of needs, but not a blaring need. Let me give you an example. I have a very good friend whose father was dying of cancer, and they ended up with pneumonia. And their father was a smoker. And they're literally fighting daily with their father, who was sent home to die for smoking, creating all kinds of stress in the family. Finally, the doctor looked at my friend and goes, I get it. Cancer is, he got his cancer from smoking, but already has it now. He's going to die of pneumonia. Just let him die in peace. Don't spend your dad's last few days fighting with him and creating bad memories. When you have a blaring need, what happens is sometimes you overlook best player available or what could help your team long term because of a blaring need, or teams know what you're going to do. They know what you're going to do. And so then all of a sudden they don't have to trade with you. The Raiders are sitting here, they got a lot of needs, but they don't have a lot of blaring needs. And because of how they position themselves, nobody knows what the Raiders are going to do. Or, quite frankly, because I don't think the Raiders know what they're going to do. The Raiders are sitting there now and they put themselves in a great position. All right, we'll watch and see how 1 through 5 pans out. However it pans out, great. We'll take either whoever drops in our lap or trade back. Now, I am not implying that the Raiders have gotten a ton of calls. I don't know that they haven't. But I'm also implying I don't know that they have. But I do know there have been some calls to the Raiders about a trade. I don't think anything is there close to consummation. But I know that I know 2 calls. There may have been 50. I'm just telling you, I don't know that. But I do know of 2. And so teams are looking at the Raiders and they're drawing intrigue. If you are an NFL franchise right now in this league, you want your franchise to be a place of intrigue. So let's say a quarterback drops, or let's say that there's a couple of quarterbacks taken, or one drops, and you really need a quarterback, and you are convinced there's 3 guys that you want. And you're sitting there, maybe the Raiders don't like the guy that's there, either the guys or the guy. And you say, man, I think the Raiders are going to take him. I better jump up. Okay. Maybe you're a person that really wants a defensive tackle. Mason Graham is there. And so you're like, man, I really think the Raiders could take him, which I think they could, by the way, 100%. You need an offensive lineman. You're in love with Will Campbell. Think the Raiders could take him. They really like him as well. Maybe you really like a linebacker, and I know they love Jalen Walker now. That's a fact. That's not speculative. They love him. See, there's so many guys there, and because the Raiders don't have a blaring hole, it now they become really the belle of the ball. They become the kingmaker. They become the team that everyone else is running. Okay, what do they do? Okay, you can figure this. I'll be shocked if Tennessee doesn't take Cam Ward or Abdul Carter. Hey, so you kind of know where that's going. You know where the Giants are thinking. You know what the Browns are thinking. You know what the Jags are thinking. I mean, these are perennially bad teams. You know kind of the avenue where people are going. You have no clue with the Raiders. I think you could have 100 NFL executives do a top 5 mock draft, and I bet close to 50% would get it right. You throw the Raiders in there, I don't think it's close to 50% get it right. I can tell you, I've had multiple NFL executives ask me, what do you think they're going to do? And first of all, I would never, ever betray the Raiders and say if I ever had any information. I just want to tell you that for fans who think I would. But when this is exactly what I tell them, they have done such a good job of either fixing or patching enough problems that they're not sitting there desperate anymore. They're not the guy or gal 24 hours before the prom who doesn't have a date who now says, okay, I can't be picky anymore. Just the way it is. And it's just reality of the situation. And so you're sitting here and you're like, okay, what are the Raiders going to do? They've piqued the interest. They've piqued the interest. And let me tell you, because I shared this with you. I told you earlier, one of the things you're going to love about John Spytek, and it's what you already love about Pete Carroll, and I think you suspect about Tom Brady, they are thorough. There will never be a team in the NFL this year more prepared. I think there will be teams as prepared, but there will not be one team in the NFL more prepared. One thing that I can tell you from multiple people who've been around Brady, Spytek, and Carroll, the one thing all three of them have in common, they have several things in common, but one thing that they all have in common is they are prepared. They walk into meetings. Someone once told me the best thing about someone from Tampa Bay, the best thing about walking into a meeting with John Spytek is he's got his agenda, he sticks to it, and it's over. He doesn't waste anybody's time. And I asked one NFL executive who's very familiar with Spytek, very familiar. I said, how do you think he runs his war room? And they laughed. They go, this one's easy. I said, well, what is it? They go, he's going to know exactly what he's doing. As the board's unfolding, he will have played out every scenario. Another person told me, he said, I heard you're reporting that in all of the thousands of Raider mock drafts, they never had Bowers going at 13, which is true. I've already reported that. And he said to me, Spytek would have. I would have been like, I said, what? He goes, oh, yeah, Spytek would have. Spytek would have had him at 16. I mean, at 13, just because he will run through every scenario. What if this guy happens to drop? And so What I want to get through with you today after working the phones all day and all that I've been up to working on draft stuff, getting information for some pro days, going to have some information here probably later this week, but some interesting things with pro days and the Raiders and top 30 visits. But the Raiders are absolutely putting themselves in a position now where the rest of the league is watching them. The Raiders are a lot about this draft. I don't care if 3 quarterbacks go in the top 5. I don't care. I don't care how it unfolds. I don't care if only 1 quarterback goes in the top 5. I don't care. The Raiders may not be the head of the draft, but they're the neck. And we all know everything revolves around the neck. The NFL's attention is peaking. The eyes of the NFL are on the desert. They're on Vegas. And they're looking at the Raiders and paying close attention. This is going to be, in my opinion, the most fascinating draft I've ever covered. Not just in the 6 years I've covered the Raiders, but in my career. There is so many. I've been telling you for weeks. I've had people telling me there's going to be starters next year picked in the 5th round this year. And the word starter would be okay. Okay, usually a 5th rounder gets it. They're using it plural, starters. There's a lot going on, a lot happening, a lot is developing. And the eyes of the NFL are on the desert, and the eyes of the NFL are on the Raider Nation. Pretty interesting. It's been a while since they've been there for the right reasons, and now they are.